Feel that
Feel that
breeze,
breeze,
huh?
huh?
I tell you,
Tell
on a
you,
day
on a day
like
like
this, I
this,
just
I
sit
just
on
sit
my
on my
porch,
porch,
pick
Yeah.
away
pick
my
away my
six string.
six-string.
Yeah, once
Yeah,
we're
once
done
we're
with this
done with
little
this
Because
little
my
thing,
thing,
husband
I'm gonna teach you how
owns
to
a
teach you
play
how to play
dealership.
guitar.
guitar.
All right, I
I
reckon you'd
reckon
really
you
like
really
that.
like that.
What do you
What do
say,
you say,
huh?
huh?
No, we're gonna sell it. Yes.
Dale,
Dale,
talk to
talk to
me.
me.
Yeah.
Huh?
Huh?
It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
Notice that once Miss Maddie pointed out her dash cam, that the officer decided to focus on a different aspect of the stop. According to the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles website, a dealer tag can in fact be used by the dealer's family or employees for personal use. This officer frankly doesn't know what he's talking about and is presenting his speculations about dealer tags as facts.
no, he's gonna sell it. I'm just test driving it. No, it's of course I'm driving it, so I have to have insurance on it and stuff. Well, right now I'm driving it, so it's not like. Do you want me to call my husband? You can talk to him.
I
I
drove
drove
that
that
line the
line
other
the
night.
other night.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah?
yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Slipstream.
I swear I was wearing. I had a. Huh? Okay, but I swear I have. Okay.
The officer left the scene without issuing Miss Maddie any citations. This interaction is a testament to the power of a dash cam because without it, this officer could have initiated a lengthy court battle based purely on inaccurate information and misinterpretation of the law. The next video from Sean Trabijan's channel also centers around an officer's misinterpretation of the law and perfectly demonstrates the accountability a dash cam offers when officers are uncooperative and misinformed.
Look at
look at
that.
that.
Another
Another
city,
city,
another
another
abandoned
abandoned
quarantine.
quarantine.
There's that
There's that
hospital the
hospital, the
firefighter
fire
mentioned.
mentioned.
Won't get up.
Won't get up.
Maybe we
Maybe
cut
we
through
cut through
here.
here.
I've been cited for this before. And I'm not guilty of anything in the court. Got the money back, paperwork for it. Stop.
You can alter the lighting of your car can alter the performance of the vehicle. So I don't know if you can tell up front here. See how this car is
Well, we could
red?
use that
Use that
ladder.
ladder.
When you do yellow lights in the front, it actually alters the performance of lights.
Thing all
Thing all
right?
right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
There's a refund check.
Seems extra quiet today.
Oh,
This vehicle
sorry.
right here,
No, it's not.
they can be white or yellow.
California
That's fine.
Vehicle Code 25950 clearly states that emitted light from all lamps and reflectors visible from in front of a vehicle can be white or yellow. Mr. Trabijan has already been stopped multiple times for his headlights and proved in a municipal court that his headlights are legal and is more than well prepared for this interaction. Mr. Trabijan has the court documents and the exact statute on hand ready to show Officer Lamelli, but the officer's ego won't let him go that easy.
Yeah, it's not that safe. That just applies to lights. Your headlights are white. You install white lights in the front.
This includes headlights here. The light emitted from all lamps and the reflected light from all reflectors visible from the front
Here
of
we
the
go.
vehicle shall be white or yellow.
Ellie,
Ellie,
However,
can also
Ellie.
lights and
What?
multiple performance that the
Light.
of the light and equipment.
I didn't do that.
Well, if they're yellow, it alters it. Yellow light is not the same as
Well,
white
you're
light.
saying I altered them. I didn't alter it.
What's that?
You're saying I altered them.
When you buy it, you're required to maintain your vehicle to California standards. So if you bought it from the dealership like that,
I believe I have been found fraud. The paperwork I have, and according to me going to court,
they'll give you the section here.
I was unable to locate any statute which prohibits the modification of headlights to affect their performance. There is no such statute in the California Vehicle Code, and it is very likely that Officer Lamelli is misinformed. Mr. Trabajan has made every effort to dispel the officer's concerns, and by refusing to acknowledge the court documents, this officer is effectively saying that the judge is wrong. A courtroom offers the judge a chance to review all relevant statutes, ordinances, and case law that applies to the case at hand. And if the statute that Officer Lamelli is looking for exists, then a judge certainly would have taken it into consideration before issuing the ruling that the lights were legal.
Are you kidding me?
I'm going to figure out a license for knowledge.
I just went through this like 2 weeks ago with the blue, right here, probably 200 yards from here.
That's a different section that you cited it for.
He didn't sign it.
That's
Come
it.
on, hurry up.
For your performance of the headlights.
The blue, you never couldn't find anything, you never go.
Officer Lamelli now believes that he has a greater understanding of the legalities surrounding this interaction than both a municipal judge and multiple fellow officers, including the head of his district and a watch commander. Officer Lamelli's pride and ego are clouding his ability to objectively perform his duties and uphold the language of the law instead of his personal interpretations of the law.
You bought it like that, that's why I said you bought it like that from the dealership. It is. So you should go back and tell them that, get them white lights.
I made a diligent effort to make sure that these lights come on.
If they will come with yellow lights from the manufacturer.
That I don't know. I bought it.
Yeah, probably not. Probably come with white lights from the front. You can have yellow ambers.
We don't have to do this.
That's what that other section refers to. You can't have blue lights, green lights, as any other lights.
What's the other option?
Go back to Thomas. He done with this old whole thing.
Alter the visibility of the vehicle from the front.
After all we've been, everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
My partner says everything checks out good, so you're good. I'll give you a warning. Just you're saying you're trying to take care of it.
Actually, I'm not. I'd rather leave them that way. I really believe that they're lawful. I went to court on it. I checked with Sergeant Chandler here at this district. I checked with the watch commander at CHP. And I really, truly believe that they're lawful. If you're taking the time out to stop me for this, and you want to cite me for it, I'd like to get a citation for it so that I can make sure that it's documented properly. So they can cite me for vehicle code
I
that's
know you
relevant
know.
to the headlights.
But there's no halfway with this.
If I'm not going to be cited
Once
for
we're
it,
done,
it's a complete waste of time. And
go
I
wherever you want.
Amendment rights to travel
Okay.
free.
While it could be argued that this stop is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, Officer Lamelli genuinely believes that Mr. Trabajan is committing a violation and most likely would not be held accountable for his actions. In the 2014 case of Hyen v. North Carolina, the Supreme Court held that officers who commit reasonable mistakes in regards to carrying out their duties cannot be held responsible for the greater implications of their misconceptions. The court went on to note that while the matter Jackson's ignorance of the law is no excuse correctly implies that the state cannot impose punishment based on a mistake of law. It does not mean that a reasonable mistake of law cannot justify an investigatory stop. This ruling grants officers a poorly outlined margin for error that can act as justification for improper traffic stops and indirectly encourages officer ignorance.
But it's not a violation because you committed a violation. Why stop it?
If you tell me I committed a violation, I'd like to be cited for it. I've already been cited for it, and it was just deemed lawful. Please go ahead and sign me for it. I'll wait patiently.
Well, that's your request. And
I'd like to do citations so I can go to court and do the same process again. Therefore, I prove that I'm being targeted and harassed by President over the same issue several times. This is the seventh time I've been pulled over for this.
I've never stopped you at New York.
I said, President,
This place takes me back.
How
I
so?
like the citation number.
It was right after everything. I ended up in a treehouse just like this.
I cannot
We were
argue. I
like
don't know
witnesses.
who you are.
Saw families torn apart.
As Mr. Chabajian said, it is the Fresno Police Department that is acting negligently by stopping him multiple times without taking steps to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Officer Lamelli may not be individually responsible for a targeted stop, but the department has made no effort to inform its officers of the proper legalities surrounding this interaction, and Mr. Chabajian is being victimized as a result. It is unclear whether the officer's refusal to issue a citation is because of his ego or because a citation would serve as the foundation for a legal battle with the officer and the department as a whole. Fortunately for Mr. Chabajian, the dashcam footage of this interaction could be used as evidence of harassment in a lawsuit.
Should I please have the citation secretary?
You're free to go now.
I'd like the citation. Otherwise,
I'm giving you a verbal warning.
I'd like an apology for the violation of my right to being unlawfully continued here for this amount
You're
of
not being allowed to.
time. My
You're
freedom,
doing a warning.
my freedom is.
It's your. Thank you. Have a good night. Drive safely. Yes, me too.
Mr. Chabajian leaves the scene without being issued a ticket, but with enough evidence to make a case for harassment and negligence in a courtroom thanks to his dashcam. Mr. Chabajian later noted that he would not be pursuing legal action against the department or Officer Lamelli. Dashcams offer an unparalleled level of transparency and security when it comes to police interactions. Many traffic infractions are based purely on an officer's observations and perception. Dashcams level the playing field for drivers and allow citizens to dispute the claims of officers and offer up just as much, if not more, evidence for both sides of the story. The days of conjuring up false traffic violations to justify pulling over innocent civilians are long gone, and a new level of transparency, accountability, and civilian safety is dawning in the wake of the prevalent use of dash cameras. The security and peace of mind offered by a dash cam can be equated to an alarm system on your home or vehicle. And investing in a dash cam now could potentially save you money and perhaps even your life in the future. Let us know if there's an interaction or legal topic you would like us to cover in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more police interaction content.
This will help us out.
Fasten your seatbelts. Is your car dealership ripping you off? $1,200 service they are recommending, none of which was needed. We're undercover.
You guys are missing everything. Tire rotation, brake inspection.
Again, overselling. High pressure. Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions.
This episode covers unlawful orders, obedience to authority, and officer conduct. It is brought to us from the public record of the city of Keller, Texas. You can find a link to the original video in the description below. Before we dive into the interaction, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of this episode, Surfshark. We all know that VPN services can help to protect your privacy and ensure that all of your identifying information is kept safe. But VPNs like Surfshark offer their users so much more than digital security. Online businesses know how affluent their customers are, what devices they use, and what they're willing to pay. That's why people from different countries see different prices for digital products and services. With Surfshark, you can avoid price discrimination for flights, car rentals, hotels, and more by hiding your location and identity online.
No matter
The
how hard
Surfshark
you
subscription
try.
is totally unlimited, which means that you can use it on as many devices as you like, and even on all of them at once. No other VPN service offers that much accessibility. Right now, Surfshark is offering the ATA community an 83% discount with an additional 3 months completely free. With 24-hour customer service and a 30-day money-back guarantee, you have absolutely nothing to lose. So click the link in the description to claim your exclusive offer now. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this episode. On August 15, 2020, 22-year-old Dylan Puente was driving to his grandmother's house when Keller Police Sergeant Blake Shimonek stopped him for allegedly making a wide turn. Shortly after the release of a 2-minute edit of the hour-long body cam footage from various mainstream media outlets, this interaction went viral. And although this episode is longer than the average ATA coverage, I highly recommend watching to the end so that you can leave this episode fully informed of the legal and psychological nuance surrounding this encounter.
This time it's gonna be different. I just know it.
What do you mean?
They're gonna be there. The fire show. I'm sure of it.
Any reason why you rolled the window up when I walked up to this car? No, sir. You have to be driving it down past the mile. I just Alright, step out of the car for me. Step out. You gotta shut that window. Open it now. Step out. Right here. Face that direction. Face that direction. Change right behind your back. Don't move. You're gonna stay. Why are you acting so suspicious? Well, what, you're rolling your window up and I'm walking up like you ain't traffic stop. Ain't nothing going on. You're rolling your window up. What does that look like to me? I mean, something's going up for my safety. For your safety? Yeah. Justin, I rolled up my window. Back off. That's my dad. There. Yeah. I rolled up my window. 320, you can unit cover now. And he got mad because I rolled up my window. Right here. I rolled it up. I'm back up 3 feet. Yeah. You're about to be arrested for blocking the roadway. Get on park and get out. I rolled park over there. I can't. It's not right. You're interfering with my job. You need to go park over there. I rolled up my window like you said. It was my right to roll up my window. No, it's not.
Sergeant Shimonek tells Mr. Puente that he does not have a right to roll up his window during a traffic stop, but there are no laws that specifically forbid doing so. Although citizens are well within their rights to roll up their window during a traffic stop, doing so will likely result in being extracted from the vehicle. In the 1977 Supreme Court case of Pennsylvania versus Mims, the court held that officers may order the driver of a stopped vehicle to exit the vehicle if they have been lawfully detained. The court reasoned that an officer's order to exit the vehicle constituted a minimal intrusion into the liberty of the detained citizen, and the safety offered to an officer by such an order far outweighed the potential inconvenience to the detainee. They noted that mere inconvenience cannot prevail when balanced against concerns for the officer's safety. Sergeant Shimonek's perspective is that Island is such an important aspect of police interactions. The factors associated with Mr. Fuente's admission extend far beyond the legal system, but stem largely from the psychological elements at play whenever an individual interacts with an authority figure. One of the most famous studies of obedience in psychology was carried out by the renowned Yale psychologist Stanley Milgram. Particularly obedient to authority figures. Not seem killers. Two, in the study, each participant was paired with another person to find out who be the learner and who be the teacher. However, so that the participant would always assume the role of the teacher, and the learners were actually aware of the study and pretending to be participants. The teacher and the learner were then taken into separate rooms that were directly across from one another. The teacher was informed that the learner was outfitted with electrodes that would deliver a shock whenever activated by the generator being controlled by the teacher. The learner was tasked with learning a list of paired words, and whenever the learner gave a wrong answer, the teacher was instructed by the experimenter to deliver a shock. With each wrong answer, the intensity of the shock increased, with the scale of the shock eventually reaching a fatal level. In reality, the learner was merely pretending to be shocked from the other room, and was instructed to give mostly wrong answers. Eventually, the learner would stop responding altogether. The experimenter pressed the teacher to continue shocking the learner in the absence of an answer. When the study was concluded, 2/3 of the teachers had continued to shock the learner to the highest level of 450 volts, and all the participants continued to The results of this study demonstrated that people are extremely likely to follow the orders of authority figures, even to the extent of killing an innocent being. Obedience to authority was rewarded in every case. Mr. Fuente likely felt that answering Sergeant Schmeich's questions was required. It is safe to assume that Mr. Fuente only agreed with
There's so many of them.
the consequences of not agreeing. This is a classic example of how obedience is taken advantage of by members of law enforcement. I highly doubt that the sergeant was aware of the psychological aspects of play and maliciously took advantage of them. This part of the encounter demonstrates the entire need to educate officers on the psychology of detainees and the need to educate citizens on their right to remain silent. The sergeant should have this Texas officers have been afforded the authority to arrest citizens for petty crimes that carry no jail time, such as traffic infractions. In the 2001 Supreme Court case of Atwater versus City of Lago Vista, the court held that a citizen's Fourth Amendment rights are not violated when the subject is arrested for driving without a seatbelt. And such arrest for a misdemeanor that is punishable only by a fine does not constitute an unreasonable seizure under the Fourth Amendment. This ruling authorized officers to make a custodial arrest of a citizen without balancing costs and benefits or determining whether the arrest was necessary. There are only 3 motor vehicle offenses that Texas officers cannot effectuate an arrest under: speeding, open container violations, and texting while driving, which, ironically enough, are also the top 3 causes of car accidents in the U.S. The Atwater ruling opened the floodgates for malicious and unnecessary arrests. And according to a 2019 study conducted by order of the Sandra Bland Act of 2017, more than 45,000 Texas drivers were arrested in traffic stops for Class C misdemeanors in 2018 alone. If had been legitimately violating Code 42.03, then Sergeant Schmonik would have been within his authority to arrest him. We will discuss whether or not Mr. Marco actually violated the code in a moment. The point of this section is to highlight the fact that Texas law any violation. That violation may be. After the code
We killed him.
Let's compare the sergeant's story to what
I think we got him. Endurance or not?
I thought it was going to drive off. I mean, motor open, just use up out, go shoot. I can go to detain him. Dad, cruising the road, top of the road. I think you leave. You leave. He's the over here. He's feeding son. Telling him what to do. I wrote it up. Back the very feet. And I said, no, sir, you leave. I said, sir, you don't believe? I said, you're going to be detained for blocking the roadway here. Yeah. You're about to be arrested for blocking the roadway if you don't park to get out. And so he's back up all the way, parked over there. And he walked up into my scene multiple times. I figured I got under arrest. We're taking you to custody for the track violation, interference, and he resisted, so he got sprayed. Taking the ground.
I think you can show that right now.
He's videoing us, and now I guess we got family over here.
As you can see, the sergeant's methods are a far stricter than what actually happened. The sergeant's release report was filled with inaccuracies. In the report, Sergeant Schmonik claimed that Mr. Marco approached him from behind. The video shows that. The sergeant went as far as claiming that he did not approached, and that it wasn't until Mr. Marco yelled at him that he became aware of his presence. The sergeant also stated that Mr. Marco refused to move his vehicle after being ordered to do so, and that he remained in the roadway for an additional 30 seconds to continue yelling, which is a blatant lie. The report goes on to state that due to officer safety, Sergeant Schmonik decided to arrest Mr. Marco for obstructing the roadway.
Watch your step. The water's pretty deep.
Texas Penal Code 38.15 is the state's instruction.
What's that?
Even if the sergeant's story was true and Mr. Marco was yelling at officers, this code provides an exception for any interruption, disruption, impediment, or interference that consists of speech only, which renders this charge invalid. Sergeant Schmonik's malicious behavior does not end there, and once his lieutenant arrived on the scene, the sergeant recounted his inaccurate story to his superior and informed him that he intended to arrest Mr. Fuente for the wide turn violation so that he could search his vehicle without obtaining consent for probable cause.
Here right now, the way detained, sitting back to a car. We had a very lengthy conversation. He's been reasonable. I'm quite certain there's narcotics in the car, so I think I'm going to want to arrest him for the wide right turn. He's got history of narcotics. He's telling me, giving me all sorts of clues, so I think I'm going to arrest him for the wide right turn.
The lieutenant authorizes Sergeant Schmonik to arrest Mr. Fuente, and the sergeant searches the vehicle but does not find any drugs or weapons. Mr. Fuente was taken to jail, and his vehicle was towed. Following the encounter, the Keller Police Department launched a proactive internal investigation of the vehicle.
I'm on the other side.
Body and dash cam footage along with all the paperwork.
Hey, hold up.
The investigation resulted in Sergeant Schmonik being demoted to a patrol officer with the opportunity to reapply for his sergeant position in the year. Officer Tomer did not face any disciplinary action. All charges against Mr. Marco were dropped, and all of the fines and fees associated with his arrest were refunded. Mr. Marco has filed a federal lawsuit against Officer Schmonik and Officer Tomer, who prompted Keller Police Chief Brad Fortune to personally apologize to Mr. Marco and admit that his officers were wrong. According to the New York Times, Mr. Marco accepted the chief's apology as a nice gesture, but also stated
Just stick to the edge. It's shallow over there.
The executive director of the Texas Municipal Police Association, Kevin Lawrence, told the New York Times that a lawyer with the association was monitoring the lawsuit against Officer Schmonik and Tomer. The group does not represent the Keller Police Department or have a lawyer involved in the litigation, despite the fact that both are board members of the organization. He ironically went on to say, quote, "This is one of those cases where I would say you may want to take a step back and not take the pleading at face value. At the time of writing this episode, the Keller City Council has announced a special executive session to take place on December 29th for a full briefing on the incident." Although that session is not included in this episode, you can find updates regarding the session's findings in the description below. Overall, Officer Shamanik, Officer Tomer, and the Keller Police Department get an F for arresting Mr. Marco when he committed no crimes, arresting Mr. Puente for no other reason than to search his vehicle, and for escalating what could have been a routine traffic stop to a physical altercation. Officer Shamanik abused the philosophy of officer safety and exercised poor discretion throughout the entirety of this interaction. Nothing he did during this encounter
You okay?
Officer safety is a legitimate concern during any police encounter and should never be used to justify misconduct. This type of behavior only serves to erode the public's trust in law enforcement and make it more difficult for other officers to legitimately justify their actions in the name of officer safety. The most troubling aspect of this encounter is the department's response to the officer's conduct. Much like the Revere Police Department's response to misconduct that I covered last week, the KPD's decision to demote Officer Shamanik rather than firing him conveys the message that officers who commit blatant acts of misconduct will be allowed to continue serving in their official capacity. There's absolutely no justice in this decision. The internal affairs investigation resulted in nothing more than a PR stunt, and I struggle to see any option for justice other than Officer Shamanik's termination. If departments continue to perpetuate the notion that officers have the highest job security in America, then progress toward addressing the issues facing the American policing system will be significantly dampened, even more than they already are by nonsensical court rulings like the Atwood case. There is no excuse for Officer Shamanik's conduct or the department's lackluster response to that conduct. It will be interesting to see how the Keller City Council handles this situation. As for Mr. Puente and Mr. Marco, I cannot justify issuing a grade to their conduct, because they were both fully out of control of every aspect of this interaction, and nothing they could have done differently would have made an impact on the outcome. There is very little to critique on the side of Mr. Marco and his son, and that's mostly due to the fact that they did not have an opportunity to contest Officer Shamanik's conduct. While it is true that Mr. Puente could have exercised his right to silence, his reluctance to do so stemmed from a well-established psychological ineptitude that was arguably out of his control. Mr. Puente was cordial and cooperative throughout the encounter, and, despite being obviously mistreated by the officer, he complied with all of the officer's orders. I commend Mr. Puente for remaining calm and collected, and refusing to allow his emotions to dictate the outcome of this encounter. Mr. Marco also deserves recognition for having the awareness to begin filming this interaction, not allowing Officer Shamanik to intimidate him or discourage him from recording. Nothing Mr. Marco did violated the law, and the department confirmed that by dropping all of the charges against him. Mr. Marco had no time to react to Officer Shamanik's decision to arrest him, and it makes sense that he would be somewhat resistant given that he was not able to process the logic of the officer's orders. Mr. Marco went from peacefully exercising his First Amendment right to record the police to being maced and arrested in a matter of seconds. And instead of making an effort to reason with Mr. Marco, both of the officers jumped straight to physically restraining him without any legal justification. I have no doubt that Mr. Marco will fare well in the courtroom, and I commend him for following up this encounter with the proper legal action.
John Lane here, the creator of Audit the Audit. If you've made it to the end of this episode, I would like to extend my personal thanks for taking the time to absorb all of the information surrounding this encounter. And you should give yourself a pat on the back for being so dedicated to being informed. This episode is the final episode for the year 2020, and I sincerely appreciate all of you who have given your support to this channel. This has been a tough year for everyone, but I'm humbled to have been a part of the ATA community, and I look forward to bringing you more content in 2021. I hope that ATA has brought you all a plethora of entertainment and educational value, and I wish each and every one of you the absolute best. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch this episode, and here's to many more to come. Cheers.
Investigations of the Roswell Police Department have reverberated across the nation and around the globe. We broke the stories of a driver arrested for speeding on the flip of a coin, a police dog attacking a young young suspect, and a 13-year-old boy who was intentionally left in the cold in the car to extract a confession, all in Roswell. Tonight, there's more body camera footage with intentionally muted microphones and hidden documents, all showing a police department that treats its officers far different than the citizens they're sworn to protect. A Roswell police officer pulls over a speeding car before discovering the driver is somebody from the same department.
Hey, man. Hey, sorry, man. What are you doing? Just for a second.
Officer Danny Ramuno was stopped for speeding and reckless driving.
I just hit for a second. I'm sorry. You know what kind of position you put me in? I can tell you've been drinking, man. I only had a drink. You only had a drink? Put your feet together. I'll do it. It feels Friday. That's fair. So, okay, that's perfectly fair. No, that's...
You're right. Officer Johnny Burnett calls for a supervisor.
Keep up drinking.
But when the lieutenant shows up,
Straight on, right? Okay.
the officer cuts the mic on his body camera. Where's this at? Why would they do that?
Stay in the car.
Sarah Webb knows what it's like to be pulled over by Roswell police for speeding and reckless driving.
Turn off the car passage, please.
2 officers arrested her on the flip of a coin.
Damn, the ladder broke off the wall.
Now what?
I'll figure something out.
Before any of these stories broke, we showed her the video of Officer Ramuno, also stopped for speeding and reckless driving, but unlike Webb, let go with a verbal warning.
I'm stuck in a bad spot, honey. It's not your second fault, not bad.
They never raised their voice at him. They were very kind. Gave him a break. And the second I started talking to her, it was just hostility.
Take a look at the 2 stops side by side.
Stay in the car. Sorry, my window doesn't move. Officer Brown, Roswell Police Department. You know how fast you were just going, ma'am? I'm so sorry. I was late.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm sorry, man.
Turn off the car and pass me, please.
You know, it's one time. With no tests, the only evidence is some bloodshot water guys putting the crime about your sister. There's no way you stole it all. It wouldn't help you. It wouldn't keep anybody safe on the road. You're a young. You have got to talk to somebody.
Were you given any benefit of the doubt like that officer?
No.
Did they ask you what was going on in your life?
No.
Two wrongs don't make a right. If we were wrong with Sarah Webb, like I say, that
Let me go ahead. You follow my lead.
Chief Rusty Grant has no problem with the way Roswell police handled the stop of one of their own.
I imagine you're doing good.
More in fact, avoided and replaced with a hard-to-find internal memo. Why not?
Okay, come on, Joe.
Sure.
I got you.
Why write a memo that
Let's
isn't
get the hell off this thing.
and not write an incident report that is easy to find in public record?
It wasn't to try to keep the information from anybody.
This was withheld from me until I specifically asked for it.
Right, well, the open records folks wasn't aware that
deciding to let Officer Ramuno go, they cut all the mics a second time, a feat feature the body camera vendor prohibits by default. Roswell police commanders had to actively choose to enable muting department-wide. Officers are muting their dash cam, muting their body cam to talk about another officer and whether they're going to arrest him. There is only one reason to do that, and that's to avoid public scrutiny.
Yeah, we're doing it the way that we think we should do it. We're not trying to hide money. He's not going to go. I'm part
Park Officer Ramino's car for him because, according to the internal memo, the two passengers were also. Keep in mind, yep, have the camera on, so just don't say it. The Roswell police dog fighting a passenger who bailed out of a stolen car and then gave up.
Hands in the air!
Right there is where he made it.
She's not doing Hands in the fucking air!
This is the scene today. Police wouldn't give us the dash camera video until this year because technically the case was still open.
Welcome to the Fireflies.
Now we can look back 2 years.
Sorry
to a
about that.
window in time.
They don't know who you are.
Say was the critical
She's all
moment.
right.
First,
They
the
brought her
officer
back.
says, "Come here, play."
You came through this way.
Then the officer
What'd
says,
you do?
"Get down on the ground, play." But the officer doesn't say, "Get down on the ground on your stomach with your hands out." So the team instead decides to sit on this curb behind a bush and then puts his hands up. But police say putting his hands up and hands down behind the bush constituted furtive movement.
Well, that's
Then
most
the
makes my Christmas
to deploy not only on his
I pretty
own,
much lost
out of the
everything.
van from his handler, play,
And then you show up and somehow we find you just in time to save me.
but also against the command of his handler. Fast
Maybe
forward.
it was meant to be.
What follows are 18 commands of off.
You don't have to worry
The
about
dog
it anymore.
continues
We'll take care of
to
it.
attack.
Let me see his face.
You can't. She's being put through surgery.
What do you mean, surgery?
The doctors tell me quarter 6, the growth inside her is somehow mutated.
Then right here,
It's why she's in need.
police break
Once they remove it, we'll be able to reverse engineer a vaccine.
and holds him now for another 8 seconds.
But it grows outside the brain.
No commands to apprehend, ignoring all commands to stop. The dog nearly biting his own handler in the end. You don't want to see the
There
dog
is
come
no
off the
else.
bite of a
You better show me.
Stop.
training. It's because of that
I
specific
get it.
around that time.
But whatever it is you think you're going through right now is nothing to what I've been through.
writing in their use of
I knew
force.
this was
No
born.
training issues.
I promised your mother to look after her.
Responded as he should, and K9 Robbie did just as he's been trained by knowing when to apprehend
no
subjects
other
for
choice here.
unacceptable behavior.
You can't control your dog. You're a liability. You are a liability magnet. You're going to get sued. You're going to hurt people, and your agency is going to write
Roswell police pull over a golf cart in the middle of a
Martin,
January night.
How old are you?
He tries anything,
You're
shoot.
13? Do you have ID on you or anything like that? What are you doing out here at 13 years old?
I think he totally stole it.
You can see ice clinging to the boy's arms. Weather records show it was 17 degrees, headed down to a low of 12.
Dang, it's cold.
Officers warm up
It's so
inside their
sad.
heated cruisers.
Oh, it's so cold.
It's chilly. Again, you're not under arrest. I'm just detaining you, okay?
And at first, Officer Cheryl Dickerson puts the boy in her heated patrol car.
I've got a 13-year-old detained right now. I didn't say you were going to jail. I said you were detained, okay? We're trying to figure out which That's not true.
He's not gonna tell you the truth. He hasn't told you the truth since he met you.
Yeah, so I don't know, but he's 13. From what I can tell.
24. Yeah, I guess there's some stuff.
I'm gonna say, listen to me. I'm not asking you what you go by. I'm
Fuck you
asking
doing,
you what
kid?
your
Walk.
name is. I'm about lost.
Six.
Is called to the scene. Patrol car with the boy turns. Where?